Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested.
And Frank from Tested.
Frank, I heard recently you worked on a new show.
The Orville.
The Orville. You guys made some costume parts?
Yeah, we did a lot of work for specialty costume.
That's awesome. And the show also has a lot of aliens in it. Creatures.
Yes, so many good makeups on that show.
So we're here to check out the makeups. We're actually in front of KNB EFX. It's the shop of Quick Nicotero and Howard Berger. And they've done stuff for like The Walking Dead, films
Hateful Eight, Chronicles of Narnia, like a good jillion films. Pretty much they've done a little bit of everything.
And I think Howard and Tami Lane, the makeup artist on the show, is going to give us a demo today of one of the aliens that they had for the Orville.
I'm excited.
Howard, thank you so much for having us here.
Yeah, absolutely, Norman. Thanks for coming and joining us today here at KNB EFX in Los Angeles, California.
It's an amazing shop you guys have here. So much going on. Here we're getting a demo today.
We are. We're going to have, this is Dirk Rogers, who is one of our KNB guys, but also he's one of our suit performers, and he played numerous aliens in the Orville, Seth MacFarlane's The Orville. Probably played like 10 different aliens through the course of the season. Like that, Something like that, including Krill. So in episode 6, he's one of the scary Krill. So, and that's Tami Lane, who is the key makeup artist on the show. And so we're going to do a demo on Dirk today, application. And what we have is, it's basically, because it's a TV series, we had to be smart about how we design stuff.
Right.
So it's really 3 pieces. We have this full cowl that fits over Dirk's head and gets glued down. Then there's a chin piece, and then there's the front of the face, and everything blends together as one. And then we paint it all up, and we color the inside of his mouth and all that good stuff. And at the end, he then goes to see Joseph Porro, who is our costume designer, and gets into a really amazing costume, and it just ties the whole thing together. So, but that's what we're going to do today.
I'm excited to see the transformation.
Me too.
I'd love to pick your brain about makeup design as it happens, but let's get started.
All right, sounds great. You all set?
All set.
All right, let's spin you around and get going.
So Howard, how does a project like this begin? Like when the production comes to you, what do they come to you with?
Well, how it all began was Seth called and said, "Hey, I'm going to do this show, and it's sci-fi, and it's influenced by a bunch of things I love, and I'm going to send you the script." So he sent me the pilot. I read it, and I'm like, "Okay, there's a lot of stuff in this." So right away, I went ahead and met with him, and I'm like, "So what do you think about this character, Bortus, this?" And things were, the way it's written, there was description, but there was a lot of room to move. So after talking to Seth, I understood his language. There are a couple things he said, like keywords, and I'm like, I get it, because I'm a fan as well. So that helped. and came back here, brainstormed with the guys and started doing a bunch of like thumbnail drawings. And I found that Seth reacted best to that opposed to like doing finished Photoshop art, which we did down the line. But the best was to sit on a sketch pad and just block out a bunch of things, like a paper that had like 10 different drawings on it. And I showed it to Seth. He's like, well, I like that guy and that guy. And I take that, and then we do a Photoshop piece of art that was a better representation of what we were going to do. And from there, then we just started sculpting, and Seth was learning the process as we were going through it. Same with all the other producers and creative, and Seth saw stuff every single day. Either I'd go down to him, or I'd email photos and video and just fine tune it. And he had a very, very specific idea of what he wanted, which was great, because sometimes it's a shot in the dark, But he knew what he wanted, and once we all understood his language, it was pretty easy to get.
You guys have a shared language, a lexicon for
yeah,
things
absolutely.
From other
yeah, well, I mean, I always call it. I
characters
always say we're all squids, you know, which are like big, like science fiction, horror, fantasy fans, and just, it's all exciting. And the squid part is like all our tentacles start spluing around because we're like, oh my god, look at that. Da, 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 da. And so we all kind of have that mentality. So when he would say, keywords like, I want it to be like this, or, I'm thinking more like, this character. And I'd be like, I know exactly what it is. Meanwhile, everyone in the room is like, what exactly is this or that? I'm like, I know what it is.
And your sketches are forms, textures.
Yeah, absolutely. But when you're starting to design, it's all about the silhouette. So that was the big thing. Like, let's find the right silhouette for the Krill. Like, what does he look like? And the thing was, Seth never wanted it to be, as he put it, a dude in makeup. So we always wanted to find something that was right. Like Bortus was a difficult design. We went through, it was written as like this kind of lava rock guy, and right away I was thinking like Ben Grimm. Mm-hmm. So the first designs were that, but that was incorrect. So we kept redesigning, and it finally came to a point where I went down to his office and I took the actor's headcast, Peter Macon's headcast with clay and some tools, and sat there and sculpted for like 4 hours right in front of him, and until we hit the right point. And he's like, that's it. That's what I love. Brought it back here, gave it to Garrett Emmel, who was one of our sculptors, and he finished it off, made it beautiful, and that's how we found Bortus. But it took a while, it took weeks, But what was smart is Seth started everybody early. Production started us designing and building like 6 months ahead. This isn't a show where you can just have 2-week pre-production. You need months and months and months to figure it all out and see what works and doesn't work. And even after we did our first makeup tests, there were things we went back and tweaked. We changed Bortus's nose, Alara's forehead, a bunch of different things altered, and we saw problems like, okay, I want to do this. This overlaps kind of weird here, and it feels like a weird edge here. So we were always redeveloping, even with Isaac, because we ended up building Isaac's head and hands, and Joseph Porro and his crew built the suit. For the pilot, we had one head, and we realized all the problems with it. So then when we had a hiatus between the pilot and episode 2, we completely resculpted the head and rebuilt it so that we could have it big enough to put an airflow system inside, so that Mark Jackson, who was our actor, could see really well out of it. The lights could work and be adjusted. It had 100 different things, it was kind of like, the Volkswagen Bug that turned into like the Range Rover,
And then for characters like the Krill, they're not hero characters. How do you manufacture, and if there are a lot of them, how do you design a prosthetic?
It's crazy. Well, we did have a tremendous amount. There's an episode coming up called The Krill, and we ended up doing 111 Krill makeup for that episode. So within an 8-day period, we did 111 Krill makeup, including hero makeups on Seth MacFarlane, because Tami did that, did Seth's makeup, and then I did the Krill makeup on Scott Grimes. So we had specific makeup sculpted for them, but we had pre-sculpted a bunch of different hoods, a bunch of different cowls, different sizes, and faces and chins, and we could mix match based on who the actors were. So that way we have a multitude. Plus we had to run so many, and I knew that episode was coming up. So we were running 2 months in advance to get as many pieces as we could get out. And with these cowls, we reuse these cowls twice on the same actor, and then after that we throw them away. But the chin and face we don't reuse. We have to run them every single day. So it's a big task for our shop, for the guys in the foam room department that are running 24/7. And same with Mocklins, because we have a big Mocklin episode, and it's a big manufacturing job, and then pre-painting and seaming and prepping, so it's crazy.
It's never exactly the same. You're talking about cows that can work for extras that you may not have met before,
Yeah.
or people from your team, or things that are going to
Exactly.
be closer up on screen, maybe more expressions needed.
Exactly.
How
Yeah.
much pre-prep work here versus on set?
Well, very little on set because we had like a handful, maybe like 5 hero actors that we had made specific makeups for, like for Seth and Scott and a couple other guys, and then the rest were all background, and they just showed up and we're like, okay, let's see how this all works out. So that's why we had enough stock in our cache and different sizes that we could, each makeup artist would have the actor in the chair and put it on and try to fine tune it and see how it all worked together and all that good stuff. So it all puzzle pieced together, which was always my plan, and production was always nervous, like, so how are you going to do all this? I'm like, I have a plan. Believe me, I know how we're going to do it. And that's why we have all these different size pieces. So like maybe this is a little smaller, so then I've got a bigger one that can go on this guy. And that was really it. And once everything was pre-painted, prior to the going onto the actor, that saved a tremendous amount of time as well. If we had just started with the raw foam, it would have been hours and hours. But in essence, this makeup takes about an hour to an hour and a half.
And you're designing for that,
Yes.
knowing that they have to be ready when the cameras start rolling.
Absolutely, yes. And very little maintenance on set. When you have, 20 krill standing there, you don't want to be like having to touch everybody up every 5 minutes. You want to have it ready to go and ready to rock, and it's just everybody's good. And we also had contact lenses in our hero guys, so that was a whole nother thing. So yeah, it's one thing after another. It just keeps going and going and going.
Where are we right now in terms of application?
Well, right now Tam's finishing up painting it. It's a really simple makeup. It's not as complicated as it may look. But yeah, we're just basing it out. I'm going to go and paint my side there, and we're just using some rubber mask. We were gonna, which seemed to work really well. We found that going back to some of the old techniques, old school techniques, worked really, really well on this show. Using like rubber mask, grease paint, and airbrushing acrylics and so forth. It doesn't always. I always find that because there might be some new processes and something new. It's not always the best. You don't just because it's new, you don't have to use it. And for instance, like this is foam rubber, which is old school stuff, and we use a lot of foam rubber here at the shop. Other shows that we do are all foam. And if we feel that silicone is needed for the character, then we'll go with silicone. But I like the old stuff, but I rediscovered it on the show. I forgot about like rubber mask grease paint, and Tami and I were like, well, let's just use this instead. This is really nice and quick. And part of the fun of shooting here in LA was we got to pull from a great cachet of makeup artists, and one of them was this one artist named Craig Reardon, who's been around forever and ever and ever, and we pulled him out of retirement, and he's really old school, and he had some techniques that I used when I was a kid, but he still uses them, and they work really well, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that too. It's like using an aqua color, which is a water-based makeup, instead of this, like the Pax paints or the glue paints and stuff that it sticks really well, but there is a certain type of maintenance to it, like around the mouth. So if we use makeups that are a little more pliable, like rubber mask or aqua color, it doesn't break down. And if it does, we just go in with a brush and retouch it up. It's not like a whole big re-glue down. So kind of going back to the way we used to do it, it's kind of fun, And it kind of brings it to like the feel of the show too, which is kind of a familiar feel. I think Seth always wanted this to feel like, you were watching it when the same feeling you had when you were a kid watching science fiction and fantasy on television. And I think he achieved it. That was the whole thing we were shooting for, and making it feel like not that we're not copying any makeups or trying to create characters that were like, hey, that looks like a this or a this. But we wanted it to feel like you've been looking at these characters for quite a while.
It's how you remember in your head.
Exactly.
But doing it today.
Exactly.
once the appliances are on, it looks like you're tying it to his skin.
Right.
And then what type of painting work do you do on it?
Well, what we did is we had to basically paint in where the blend is, which is, we have the chin piece that attaches here, so we need to paint out Dirk's lower lip and upper lip a little bit and around the eye sockets and so forth, and anywhere where this blends together, like up in here. So we just used rubber mask grease paint today, which made it really quick and simple. And if we had to go to set, it would hold all day as well. It's perfect. So, but yeah, just went ahead with like the white base and went in with a little black and a little bit of that kind of teal blue that's in the Krill makeup. Again, we designed everything so it's pretty simple, I would go in normally maybe with a little airbrush if I felt like it, just to feather things out. But this looks pretty good to me, as far as a Krill makeup goes. I like it. I think it's cool. Pretty good. But yeah, we tried to make everything as simple as possible because we had so many of these makeups playing every day, and we had something like 19 makeup artists. So instead of everyone trying to figure it out, it was like, okay, these are the colors we're using. This is kind of how it goes. And we let everybody do a little bit of the, individuality. There's 100 ways to make a hamburger, but at the end of the day, it's a hamburger, So it kind of plays that into that mindset. And but it was interesting to see also what people would come up with. Some artists would make it exactly like, the base of what we were doing. Some people would go a little bit off and they'd be creative, Sometimes we'd have to pull it back. Sometimes it was fine.
Were there differences by the end of show versus the beginning of show?
Yeah, the first time we did the Krill for the pilot, they're totally different now, in my opinion. Like, I like them much better than we had in the pilot. In the pilot, they were like white and black, and a little bit of grays. And then we ended up throwing in this kind of bluey, kind of age tattoo color, which I really like a lot. It kind of gives them a little bit more depth and dimension. So yeah, things kept changing in the way we painted. And then if I had somebody like Steve Prouty, who's a great makeup artist, pre-paint a set, and I'd look at him like, oh, I really like that paint job, So I'm like, okay, let's make them all like this. So they were kind of changing from time to time, and I kind of like to change up makeups anyhow. I don't ever really do it always the same, every day. Even though it's a continuity makeup, I'm like, I'm going to change it a little bit here and there and try to find a better look or a better way to do something, and just keep it interesting for me too,
And we know from our favorite science fiction shows, those characters evolved as we saw
absolutely.
the shows.
Yeah, and we certainly have characters that evolved. I mean, if you watch the pilot, you'll see that Alara is in a different makeup than she is in the series, because after we shot the pilot, we thought, you know what, maybe we'll revisit this character, and we changed the forehead and changed, some of the other stuff and just her general makeup and gave her more of a beauty makeup, really red lips, and her eyes kind of have that cat eye look to it, and as far as the makeup goes, and just streamlined the whole thing, But I always felt there was like a little concern from the producers, like, are we going to notice? And to tell you the truth, you never noticed. You probably didn't even notice that there was a change from the pilot to the rest of the series. So, but yeah, it's good to tweak. You want to tweak and, make sure that, you finally find something that you settle in. I'm like, yeah, I kind of like this. This is how for the rest of the season, the Krill's going to feel like this, or the rest of the season, Bortus and his species is going to feel like this. So it was a great opportunity.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Howard,
thank you so much.
for giving
Thanks,
us
Norman, for coming in.
Insight into your process.
Yeah.
You look amazing.
Thanks. Feel good.
Yeah, you feel like a Krill now?
I feel like a Krill.
That's right, the Krill of our dreams.
Yeah, it feels like.
Yeah, he feels like a Krill.
Frank, that was super cool.
It was so great to get to see that makeup like from beginning to end, because I'd only see it on set when it's done and out of the trailer. But to get to watch them like put it together, it's so elegant how they made it real simple and real like user-friendly for any makeup artist that would have to come in and apply that every day.
Right, it's designing it to be, it's not mass production, but they actually had to make a lot.
A lot. He was saying like 5,000 makeups over the course of the series.
That's incredible.
A lot.
Right, and then of course you saw the costume part,
Yes.
so on screen it's that makeup
And it
combined
all ties
with-
together so nice. Yeah, that's what happens when you get departments that work together really well and people that really care about the show.
And I think they really succeeded at evoking that classic science fiction.
Yes.
At least when I was a kid,
Yeah.
what I loved growing up.
It's fun.
It's totally fun.
Yeah.
So thank you, Howard. Thank you, Tami, for giving us that demo.
Yep.
And we'll have more special effects on the site in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.